Kahala Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakaha Kodash. Double honor to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. All right, keep in mind that Israel was scattered and is scattered and are still scattered amongst all nations of the earth, which means that the remnant and the elect very well could look like all nations of the earth. Okay, they will look like all nations of the earth, the remnant and the elect. All right, so Lord willing, I'm of that number, and Lord willing, this is edifying. All right, all this is going to be a reading of 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. All right, which is a vision given to Esdras about the return of the Messiah. Okay. So, 2nd Esdras chapter 13. It reads, "And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth falleth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld," all right, I didn't mention that this is speaking of Yahushai. All right, I did mention the second coming, but all right, verse 6, Esdras 13 and 6, 2nd Esdras 13 and 6. "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. But I would," that's how big his chariot is going to be, man. Esdras thought it was a mountain, man. 2nd Esdras 13 and 6 again. "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held a sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he went out of his mouth, excuse me, but only I saw that he went out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests." All right, it's talking about them chariot lasers, man. "And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived." Let me make sure. All right, it says, "But only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid." Like, if you can imagine that movie with Tom Cruise in the War of the Worlds. All right, when people was getting hit, they just turned into a puff of dust, and their clothes were floating around. All right, this is how easy it's going to be for the Lord to take these people out. 2 Esdras 13:12. Afterward, I saw the same man come down from the mountain and call unto him another peaceable multitude. And there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awaked and said, Thou hast showed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. Show me now yet the interpretation of this dream. For as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. For they that were not left were in heaviness. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. Therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like as these dreams declare. Yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world, and not to see the things that happened in the last days. And he answered unto me and said, The interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open unto thee the things that thou hast required. Whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind, this is the interpretation. He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. Man. Verse 24, 2 Esdras 13:24. Know this, therefore, that they which be left behind are more blessed than they that are dead, than they that be dead. This is the meaning of the vision. Whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea, the same is he whom God the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. And whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then shall my Son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. All right. So in the midst of World War III, all right, all these people are going to try to fight, try to come together, right, and fight against the Lord. Man. So that was a spiritual thing that Ronald Reagan has said, I forget what he was speaking, what event he was speaking at. I think it was at the United Nations or something, but he mentioned something like if an alien force came down here that humanity would become one and fight against this alien force. All right, this is what is being spoken of here. They're going to be in the midst of World War III, and they're going to come together and try to fight Yahweh Shai when he returns, man. All right, again, Second Esdras 13, and I'll start back at 32. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then my son shall be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. And an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of but he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Sion, and Sion shall come and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto fire. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osei the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into their land. Speaking of North America, man. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. All right, this is them coming over here into America after they were taken captive. All right, all the 10 tribes, they were here. That's why these people were here when Colombo, all right, came over here. Where am I? Second Esdras 13 and 42. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood. They were passed over. All right? For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Azareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. Now when they destroyeth the multitude of nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, and then shall he show them great wonders. Then said I, O Lord that bearest rule, show me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea. And he said unto me, like as thou canst neither seek out nor the things, nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon the earth see my Son, or those that be with him, but in the daytime. This is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened. For thou hast forsaken thine own way, and applied thy diligence unto my law, and sought it. Thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom, and hast called understanding thy mother. And therefore have I showed thee the treasures of the highest. After other 3 days I will speak other things unto thee, and declare unto thee mighty and wondrous things. Then I went forth into the field, giving praise and thanks greatly unto the Most High, because of his wonders, which he did in time, and because he governeth the same, and such things as fall in their seasons. And there I sat 3 days. All right. So that was a reading of 2nd Esdras, 13th chapter in the Apocrypha. Okay. We'll do another reading of this in the Good News translation within the next few upcoming videos. All right. So with that, call Halo Yahweh, Baal Hashem Yahweh Shai, Baal Hashem Rakaha Quadash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number. And Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.